let's move to another story. I think this story was actually very weird because I watch a lot of Hollywood movies. I've read a lot of stories, and I'm seeing a lot of things about student loans in the US. But that's not really been a thing. I mean, when I wanted to enter school, I think we had to look for funds one way or the other for me to actually enter school, right? So, but taking a loan was not really. It did not even cross any of our respective minds, especially in Nigeria here, where credit is always seen as
evil,
a bad thing, right? So rather, if you cannot get the money one way or the other, just rest. You can't afford it, right? But now the Nigerian student loan has come. Another bill that the new president has signed. It's a piece of legislation that is saying, okay, indigent students can now apply for loans to pay for tuition fees in Nigerian public universities. This is a breakdown. To prove your indigency, is that a correct English?
Let's go with it.
Okay,
to prove that you are poor.
Oh my God, Ifemi, I was trying to avoid the word poor, but yeah, so to prove that, you have to submit proof that okay, your parents or you yourself, depending on the situation, do not earn more than 500,000 naira per annum. That's around 42,000 naira per month. I found that weird a little bit, but we'll come back to that. Then you must have gained admission to a public university in Nigeria, and your parents must have not defaulted on any loan whatsoever. So all your PAMPay, your
credit card,
you must have never defaulted any loan in the past. Then, yeah, okay, those are the major issues. So, but I'm curious to know what you guys think about the whole student loan thing.
Okay, let's start from getting admission before you apply for the student loan. You know how it works in Nigerian
You said they would
public
disburse
university.
within a month.
Within a month.
That's what they said, though. That's what it's.
Okay.
That's what is in the act, basically.
So I'm looking at the possibilities, right? So let's say the federal university releases its first list, and
They still do that thing.
yes, they have different
First list,
lists.
second list. Yeah.
Ah,
In fact, you
list.
might
I thought they've ended that
sometimes
thing.
first semester will have almost ended when another list will come out.
Come
They
out,
call
yeah.
it VC list. But yes, they released their first list, and there are thousands of students that got admitted. Say, let's say maybe 1% of maybe 10,000 got are indigent, and they applied, and the government has to do like a lot of background checks to be sure that they are eligible for it. You know, the fund they are going to be disbursed, you have to include acceptance fee, which has to be paid to confirm that you accept the admission. Right? I don't think that can wait for a month.
No, so this is where it gets weird, right?
Okay.
So I'm going to update my article to reflect this. The law says tuition fees, not any other thing.
Aside from tuition.
So you have to settle your acceptance fee, your clearance fee, any other fee, you have to settle it yourself. Then this is where it even gets weirder. What you call school fees right now in Nigerian public universities is not actually tuition fees. It's money for maintenance of labs or whatever.
You're not really paying school fees.
You're not really paying school fees, right? So the fact that public universities don't currently charge tuition fees could mean that these public universities might be about to introduce tuition fees.
Yes, it came on in the around Tuesday or so that the president is about to introduce
tuition fees to public universities. So are they going to give universities financial autonomy, or you are about to say?
Yeah. So I think we should. The questions that I see a lot of discussion about what's going on, but I think that we are not asking the right questions because we should not be in a hurry to. I don't know if everybody has actually digested the entire act or bill to really understand how it will work. Right, I've seen all the summaries on Twitter and everything. But the first question is, I think we're approaching it from a US student loan perspective. So we're expecting that if the university starts charging tuition to be this humongous amount that will keep you in debt and all of that. But it could also be that it will run the way it runs in the UK. So the way it runs in the UK is very different from the way it runs in the US, where it's public schools, it's funded by governments. There's a tuition, but it's still subsidized by the government. and then you can claim a student loan, right? But the loan is not exactly a loan. So like in the US where you get the loan, you get the actual money and then use it to pay your. In the UK, it's kind of like it's a mixture of government subsidies and government bodies that then pay the rest, the amount to a maximum amount. I think it's like £9,000 or something per session, and then you're not paying anything upfront. On top of that, they now give you money for expenses to take care of your feeding and everything if you're not living at home with your parents, right? And so when you are done with school, you don't start paying anything until you start earning above a certain threshold. If you don't earn above a certain threshold, you don't even start paying anything. And then once you start earning above a certain threshold, they only remove it at source, like the way they remove your tax. They remove it from your, and it's capped at a certain distance, and you pay over 30 years. And if after 30 years you don't finish paying it, the loan, you don't have to pay the loan again. It's gone. Okay. So, but in the US, more of a capitalist environment, it's a mix of private bodies and government bodies. You usually have like 5, 10, 20 years to pay, after which, if not, it's going to affect your credit score and all of that. It's your responsibility to pay this thing. Yeah. The schools are run autonomous, so they charge crazy, especially if you want to go to the Ivy League schools, they charge like crazy amounts. So we need to even know how is it going to work here before we start talking about how that, so that's those are the questions I have in mind.
Okay. So that makes sense. So from what I've read in the act so far, so first of all, the CBN governor will be the one handling it. So the CBN governor is the chairman. They are setting up an education loan fund. So that fund will have a committee. So that committee is headed by the CBN governor. The CBN governor will now appoint a secretary for that fund. Then other Minister of Finance, Minister of Education, Auditor General of the Federation, blah, blah, blah. A whole list. You can find it in the article. They are the ones that will make up the committee. So then applicants actually apply through their schools at their basic banks. So if I use First Bank, for instance, I go to First Bank and apply. Then First Bank sends the application to the committee. The committee reviews and disburses the money from the CBN through to your banks. So that's how the process works.
So that means you are paying it back as an individual.
You are paying it back as an individual. So once you've taken the loan, and they specify that it's only meant for tuition fees, not any other expense. So that's where I found that the use of the word tuition fees is quite weird, right? So then you now have 2 years to make repayment.
Only 2 years?
Yes.
After you leave school.
So 2 years after your NYSC.
Doesn't matter whether you're earning income or...
So they said you can either be a salary earner or a self-employed person, but they didn't specify if you didn't have a job or not. So I guess the hint is if you don't have a job, go and start a business, right? So then once you start earning a salary, no matter the amount you're earning, you'll be collecting 10% of your salary.
10%?
Yes, every month.
So if the tenure is 2 years, I guess that whatever I'm expecting as big tuition fees is not probably going to happen. Like, there will be a tuition fee, but it's still subsidized by...
It's still going to be subsidized. It's not going to be like private universities, obviously. So
it's not obvious. It's hopefully.
Hopefully, right? No, wait. So wait now. So I don't want to mention any university's name, but let's say that university now will not start charging the same amount as Covenant.
Not as Covenant, as state universities. Have you heard how much some state universities are charging now for tuition?
Okay.
Yeah, so it might get to the level of the state universities.
Fair point.
Yeah. That's a lot.
Yeah, but I think the loan also applies to state universities too. So state government. So and they will get this money from an education bond. They are going to get the money from they are going to request for donations, grants, and all those things. Then they will not deduct 1% of all our taxes. The money they get from the taxes in the year, they use the money. That's what they use to fund this loan. 1% of all the money they get from customs, they use it to fund the loan. 1% of all the money they get from immigration, they use it to fund the loan. Then 1% of the money they make from oil every year,
they add it to the
loan. So those are the.
So I guess we should keep watching. What I'm really interested mostly in is how they will deduct the money. Will it be arrangement with banks, direct debits? Is there a way tech startups can play in this.
Yeah, that's another good point. So
They trust us as much.
no. That deducting it. So you're going to tell immediately you start working. You're going to submit your employer's details to the committee.
So if you don't submit it, how do they know?
That's where the jail term comes in.
Yeah, that jail term, I don't like the idea behind it.
So
there's no way in the US or the UK that you go to jail for.
It's not that if you don't repay, you go to jail.
Okay.
It's if you submit falsified documents,
Okay.
or you don't submit at all.
At all. Okay.
So if you are self-employed, you are supposed to submit your CAC details and everything to the government.
Sounds like it's going to be a lot of stress.
Yeah.
There needs to be a tech solution to solve this. Somebody needs to start thinking about how to, although again, government relations.
Implementation is the thing.
Yeah, I can think of.
I'm not holding my hopes high for it anyway.
I can think of a few startups that could make this work. I Invest could actually help government raise funds so more people can buy education bonds. There's Learn Square, there's Evolve Credits that are building lending infrastructure for borrowers. So maybe the government needs to actually make this thing very, very automated and reduce stress. So company like Learn Square, Evolve Credits can help.
On our identity.
NIMSI, our addressing system. I saw a picture of, because this thing happened before in 1972. It was dead on arrival. People were submitting wrong addresses.
Exactly.
The education board had to paste the names of people and the addresses. So like, people should come and pay.
So that's the thing. Implementation, you can't just say this thing works in other economies and we want to bring it in. There are a lot of things it has to work on. If they don't fix identity and addressing system, people are going to default and there's nothing they are going to do about it.
And that's why they need
tax people's money. Taxpayer money will just,
Okay.
But I don't know if they can trust tech startups.
They need their help.
They need the help of tech startups.
Someone just needs to get it. I mean, look at what is happening with
Tap and Pay.
Is it Touch and Pay or Tap
and Pay? Sorry.
With BRTs in Lagos and ferries. I mean, it's a startup.
You can work.
You just need to do a lot of lobbying and be ready to do some. Yeah, lobbying. Let's leave it at lobbying.
Okay, so
generation of our children. Maybe they will enjoy it.
Maybe, but you don't pass for us. It's fine.
You can master's, PhD. It doesn't apply.
They didn't even mention.
Only undergraduates.
They mention it's good. Oh, that could be a possibility. That's true.